Hello everyone. If you are new to my channel, then consider liking and subscribing. It will make me feel wonderful if you do it, thanks. By the way, I also have a Luffy fan fiction channel. If you are interested, the link is in the description.
For A Roll of the Dice by Kurasabe. Little Naru didn't know where the weird floating box shape came from, and can honestly say she doesn't give a shit. Together with Anko and the Kachan voice in her head, the little blonde will become the strongest ninja and go on many serious and awe-inspiring adventures. At least, if that Wild Nations perk doesn't get to them first, to turn things crazy. Adios.
After the taijutsu beatdown that happened between Naru and Kiba, the day was almost blissfully quiet. The little blonde terror of insanity distracted by talking to her two new friends while Sasuke silently inserted himself into the group and basically used them as a fangirl repelling barrier. The setup itself was simple but genius. He sat in the uppermost corner next to the window, puts him close next to a possible exit when needed, with Shino next to him. Since none of the girls bar Naru and Hinata wanted to be anywhere near him, it also ensured that they'd be far enough for him to focus on the lessons. He also didn't have to worry about the braver of those ditzy girls trying to take the seat in front of him, since those two seats were occupied by Naru and Hinata. He did confess from the start his intentions, seeing as the thrashing Kiba received only reinforced the warning his brother gave about the blonde. Shino and Hinata immediately accepted his apologies, but the red-eyed girl kept staring at him for a few seconds with that blank face of hers. Still, after a few seconds she shrugged and reserved the rights to kick the ass of any idiot trying to come close without any of them agreeing. So with a fangirl repelling barrier in place and strong possible friends surrounding him, Uchiha Sasuke couldn't help but let a little smile slip out. Maybe the academy won't be that bad. Possibly the earliest line break in a chapter yet. The final bell finally rung after what seemed an eternity, most kids either groaning along or letting out little sighs of relief. Most of the kids already tried to get out of the classroom as fast as possible, already having formed cliques with like-minded children. One such clique, however, stayed in their seats after noticing how Naru kept looking at them and muttering below her breath before a while, until sometime during the afternoon she just started giggling while passing notes to each of them. The message on it simple, yet perplexing. After school meeting in Daddy's office, awesomeness guaranteed. Putting aside the fact that the blonde protag is certain enough that the Hokage will allow his craziest of progeny to just hold an impromptu meeting like that in his office while working, they couldn't help but feel trepidation at the awesomeness guaranteed part. The crazy girl just jumped from a second-floor window while carrying someone else in her arms, and she thought that was normal. Who knows what the hell will happen with her definition of awesomeness, still feeling no reason to not trust their friend, and in Sasuke's case, trying to find out if it'll help him get stronger. The three of them follow the humming blonde with trepidation as she skips towards the Hokage tower. Still, it's remarkably easy how the Yondaimi's daughter just ignores security and the secretary as she heads right into said leader's office. Having no choice but to go after their fearless leader, Hinata at least manages to placate the people they passed somewhat by apologizing to them. Sure, they're already used to the crazy girl storming through here as if she owns the place, but it's nice to see that at least one of her friends has manners. Inside the stormed office, Minato can't help but sigh fondly as he sees his daughter storm in like usual, though he is rather interested in the extras she brought along. The heirs to the Hyuga and Aburame clan, along with Fugaku's youngest son. What did she do in order to have them follow her? Minato couldn't help but ponder as he waited for his daughter to explain this current invasion of his workspace. Knowing his little sunshine, he won't have to wait long though. Hi daddy, thought you shoulda get caught up on me spending the last 2 days in a pocket dimension after using that teleport matrix. I know it looked like I was only gone for like an hour or so, but that was because of time dilation? Naru's unbelievable spiel ends up becoming a question as she tries to pronounce dilation correctly. Still, shrugging off both her faulty pronunciation and the rather gobsmacked looks by everyone who heard what the reincarnated blonde just said with that ever-present smile on her face. Taking the rather awkward silence as the cue to continue talking again, the red-eyed girl decides to do that. Anyways, we gotta head back to the training ground that we visited this morning and activate the seal so that we can go to the town of fire. Then while you are getting access for all shinobi in Konoha, I'ma start a guild with Nata-chan, Shino and the broody one. Naru just rambles along while pulling her father out of her seat. The Yondaime just lets his daughter do that as his mind is trying to reboot. Naru's friends follow as well, together with the anbu escort hidden in the shadows. Finally figuring out that common sense won't help him much in this scenario, the Hokage instead does his best to try and treat this as if it's yet another game that he played when he was a kid. So what kind of place is this town of fire then? He asks curiously, stunning the others following the blonde duo about how cool he seems to be about this. Well, it's kinda like a place where you can both buy and craft all kinds of things you need for adventures before heading to these portal thingies that let you go on an adventure or mission. It's pretty cool, and they even got houses there for sale. There are also these suits of armor that move on their own and keep the pace, and they're like super strong. The blonde girl starts rambling excitedly as they head towards the training ground, the scene she paints sounding more and more as if it belongs in a fantasy novel instead of the real world. The kids accompanying them get more and more excited at the idea of the place existing, while the anbu and minato are more and more worried about the place itself. I see, and this place exists in a pocket dimension where time moves faster than out here. Minato asks his daughter, doing his utmost best to not turn this into an interrogation. Naru just shrugs as the next few words coming out of her mouth didn't clear anything up. It did during the tutorial and when I first entered the town, but now it should be the same as out here. I think it was so that I could take my time to learn everything without losing too much time. And with that mindfuck of a sentence, she just pretty much lost her classmates while the adults needed a moment to process what was said. To summarize, you found a way to transport to a place where you can train. Said place also is where you spent 2 days while not even an hour passed here, correct? Shino? Well, summarized the long and hard to follow babbling that Naru calls an explanation. Looking back with a large grin at Shino, the youngest blonde merely nods. That about sums it up, she says gratefully. Maybe now people could finally get on with the conversation. So, what did you learn? Sasuke couldn't help but ask rather eagerly. Any place that could teach him things that allowed him to catch up to his big brother was okay in his book. Turning around so that she was walking backwards now, Naru starts listing all of the things and skills that she started learning. Let's see, I learned how to fight with my rapiers and knives, how to throw kunai, a taijutsu manual written by this awesome woman named Tex which I used to kick Kiba's ass. Then I also learned how to walk on trees and walls, lockpicking, trap making, sneaking around and infiltrating places, first aid, fishing, cooking above a campfire, and also how to make my own kunai. The coolest part is that I can learn how to make new weapons since my skill is high enough after grinding that skill with making kunai over and over. Got like 5,000 or so of them now, Naru says before looking down confused. Weirdest thing though, they like all fit into my thigh pouch. She says completely flummoxed while looking down at said pouch. Noticing the incredulous stares she receives from her current companions, Naru merely unhooks her kunai pouch and turns it around with the intention of letting its contents fall to the floor. Watching torrent of sharp and pointy things fall out of that tiny sewn container, people stopped and gaped in both awe and fear as a literal of kunai started forming right next to the middle uzumaki child. The pile of fallen kunai slowly reaching her waist before she decides that it serves as enough of an example. Closing and reattaching the pouch to her right leg again, the girl snaps her fingers before walking towards the training grounds again. The pile of crafted throwing projectiles disappears with a bright flash and doesn't even leave behind a hint of ever being materialized by a little girl that likes to fuck with the fabric of reality. After rebooting their brains in order to process that latest bit of mindfuckery, Naru once again leads her entourage to the training ground she and her father visited that morning. Pushing everyone into the rather large circle, and herding the anbu into it as well, Naru doesn't give anyone time to mentally prepare themselves as they're teleported to this new town. Teleport gate open, town of fire, realistic line break for victims of mindfucking little girls. Also, I'd love it if someone could make some fan art of Naru that I could use as the cover of this story. I suck at drawing, so I'd love if someone were willing to do it. A bright flash opened up as Naru jumped out of it, daintily landing on her feet and taking a few steps forward before turning around with a grin and a simple command on her lips. Start recording, she says while looking at the pulsing tear she just exited. She didn't have to wait long for the entertainment to arrive though, as in a stumbling heap everyone fell out of the breach in the fabric of reality. Giggling at the chaos that she just unleashed by merely pushing everyone in without giving them any warning, Naru just keeps filming the almost cartoonish way everyone falls on top of each other. Taking a step forward and holding out her arm, she just chuckles as she quickly grabs and pulls Hinata out of the way of a screaming Sasuke and Shisui. Steadying the shy girl next to her, both of them watch stupefied at the chaos that the girl brought forth while enjoying the commentary. Get off, you're crushing me with your fat ass. I'ma fucking kill that midget, that's twice she fucked with me today. Whose foot is that in my back? Naru, I'm so gonna get you back when I get out of here. Laughing at the misery her dad, Sasuke and the anbu were in, Naru couldn't help but grin and wave at them while enjoying the chaos around her. You Naru-san? Hinata stutters from in her arms, Naru rather comfortable with holding the lavender-eyed girl this close. Looking down with a gentle smile, it seems to give the Hyuga heiress enough courage to continue her line of questioning. Why did you pull me out of the way while letting the others fall on top of each other? Hinata asks meekly before seemingly trying to hide her head in the collar of her hoodie. Naru's smile simply shifts from gentle to teasing as she points at the pile of men trying to untangle. Because I now have 2 ANBUs and my dad in an awkward and hilarious position that I am recording in case I need blackmail later? Besides, they're the elite shinobi of our village, so shouldn't they be able to properly deal with shit like this? Anyways, Sasuke's A and stuff like this will make sure you won't end up like numbnuts and Shino. At this Naru actually had to pause and stare intently at the writhing pile. Where is Shino? She asks more to herself than Hinata. She didn't mean for him to get caught up in this stuff as well. Right here, and thank you for looking out for me. The monotone voice she got used to over the day comes from behind her. Even on her deathbed, Uzumaki Naru would insist that, contrary to the others there in the video evidence, she did not scream like a 5-year-old girl while jumping into Hinata's arms. Still, it would only be the first of many times where our protagonist wondered just how in the 7 hells Shino managed to sneak up on her. This line break is on Fia AHHHHHHHH. This line break is on Fia AHHHHHHHH. After getting everyone up again, the Fellowship of the Crystal, TM pending, followed Naru through the Tuan, looking around at how boringly normal it seemed. The log cabins were made with the surrounding trees, the stalls and shops were like those in Konoha, and the people wore the same as the civvies in their own home did. The only real variations were some familiar-looking ceiling matrices on raised stone dais and the huge stone circles in the distance that have some kind of creepy purple energy swirling inside of them. The portals must be the things that allow you to train and do missions in those pocket dimensions, but what are the matrices for? Minato asks his daughter while smiling at her, thinking that once again he's right as always, when not arguing with his wife, that is. To his surprise though, Naru merely snorts as she keeps on walking. Those ain't for getting to instances and missions, they connect to other places like these in the elemental nations. The only way for you to use those is if one of our ninja gets to another town and unlocks the transporter gate from their side. Only then can we use them. And those matrices just allow you to teleport from one district to the other in town. She explains with a smirk while looking back. Laughing at the stupefied face her father is pulling, she keeps leading them to the town square where both of their objectives are at the moment. Wait, isn't there something she needs to tell about those portals as well? Mayhaps it's best to tell him about the IFF system just in case. Her Ka-chan advised the girl from her mindscape while petting one of the rabbits that seemed to be a permanent fixture now. Oh yeah, before I forget, we can only link to either allied or neutral towns. So we can't get to the ones in Iwa and Kumo unless we find the entrance, get a large enough army there to kick ass and take it over all without alerting the hidden village in that country. Naru explains as they finally get to the square. The square itself wasn't that much really, just a large field of dirt with a simple fountain in the middle and 2 large buildings dominating a third of the open space. Right, to the left is the town hall where we both need to be, and to the right is the hunting lodge, where you can accept quests, go into dungeons, etc., etc. Now let's head inside. The sooner we're done here, the sooner we're finished with the prologue. How the author managed to turn it into a 10-chapter block of text I'll never know. Naru angrily muttered as she stalked to the town hall, the 2-floor building with a little tower on top of it just as unassuming as the rest of the little town. Once the rest of the group followed her inside, they saw Naru already talking with the receptionist while grinning, the stack of bills in her hand a clear indication of her sudden good mood. Walking up towards the desk, Minato quickly puts on his polite smile as his little girl and the man behind the desk stop talking. Good afternoon, I was told that I was to come here for some reason by my eldest daughter. The Yondaime asks politely as he's now firmly in Hokage mode. The receptionist with the traditional boring NPC look merely smiles and gets up. Ah yes, of course. Our mayor would love to negotiate with you about how many of your forces would be allowed to register at the hunting lodge. Seeing as our little village is rather humble, we can't support too many people trudging through here for work. He says in that bland polite tone most people like to use when talking to others from behind their desk. Rising up from his seat, he bids the most powerful man in the pocket dimension to follow him while ignoring the 2 guards trailing dutifully after him. While Hinata, Shino and Sasuke are now rather nervous to be left alone in a strange place, it seems that Naru has other problems at hand. Was it the 3rd door on the left or the on the right that holds the guild registration? She ponders loudly. Oh yeah, there he needed to do for it first. Party screen, invitations for Hyuga Hinata, Aburame Shino and Uchiha Sasuke. Naru commands seemingly nothing. It only takes a few seconds for a blue screen to appear in front of the 3 called out names. Uzumaki, Yasha, Naru has invited you to join her party. Accept, refuse, I'll be honest, I dragged you 3 along because you 3 were the most likely to go along with my plan, and for some reason I find myself wanting to get to know you guys. So yeah, I won't hold it against you if you refuse and find others that do want to help me create the guild. But I still really kinda hope we can make one today. Naru finishes her nervous rambling as she twirls one of her locks around her finger. No one says anything and the kids look nervously at each other and the screen's floating in front of them. So if I join, I'll get access to actual missions and combat? Sasuke asks with an eager tone of voice. Naru just shrugs and looks at the raven-haired boy that seems so familiar for some reason. Well, outside of actually becoming a shinobi and doing missions, this will be the most realistic experience available to you. She admits while Shino and Hinata keep thinking it over. There is one thing that needs to be clarified before one of them decides though. What exactly is this guild, Naru-san? Shino asks politely. His sunglasses lowered so his intense brown eyes stare straight into Naru's red ones. The question seems to change something within her as the tension leaves her body and she stands up ramrod straight. A guild is usually made up of people with a common goal, but I want mine to be something different. I want it to be a promise. She stayed certain of herself. What kind of promise? Hinata asks quietly, the sheer aura that Naru seems to emanate giving her courage. Easy, a promise that we will stand side by side no matter what. A promise that we will have each other's back and help one another to reach their goals and dream. No matter how hard it'll be or long it'll take. I want everyone in my guild to aid one another like a family would. She mutters the last few words softly, yet the others still hear it. Feeling the three of them stare at her, Naru starts blushing and quickly turns around, embarrassed that she said way more than she actually wanted. Anyways, it's your choice if you want to join or not. Just don't take too long deciding, please. While silence reigned and the three invited children look at one another with the fourth one admiring the walls and floor, Kagaya couldn't help but worry for her surrogate daughter. That speech wasn't made fully by Naru. The intent was hers, but the words and phrasing she used were all Yasha. Is this merely experience of a past life helping her out, or is it something more? Before she could ponder anymore on the conundrum in front of her, her train of thought was disrupted by something appearing in front of them. Hyuga Hinata has accepted your invitation. Aburame Shino has accepted your invitation. Uchiha Sasuke has accepted your invitation. For convincing people who are basically strangers to form a guild with you, you get plus 30 charisma. Skill unlocked. Speech 57 1000s facing her newest guild members with a grin. Naru can't help but let out an excited whoop. Fuck yeah, this is gonna be awesome. As soon as we can come up with a name that is. Prologue. Complete ARC1, Growth and Change. Holy fucking shit, did this thing expand while I was writing it? The original idea was for the prologue to be only like 4 chapters max while explaining most of the game mechanics in a hopefully not so boring way before I went into the story proper, but somehow we got to 10 chapters while laying the foundation of what is already my most popular story ever. Anyways, next chapter will be a time skip of 4 years while showing various moments out of said 4 years, so if there's any situation you'd love to see, feel free to leave it in the comments and I'll see if I can't incorporate it somehow. And yes, credit will be given where it's due. Alright, just 2 more things before I let you guys go to the stat. First, as stated before, I'd be honored if someone could make some fan art of Naru that I could use as a cover. I'll happily write my vision as to what she'd look like in great detail if needed. The second thing. Jesus H fucking Christ, was this chapter a bitch to write. Anyways, until next time, and for those interested, the stats are below this author's note. 3. Uzumaki Naruko stats. Uzumaki, Yasha, Naruko LV 8/21. Express 225 725 hydrogen phosphide equals 620 CH equals 3750 EXP 350 575 strength equals 13. Perception equals 21 endurance equals 59 charisma equals 33 intelligence equals 46. Agility equals 56 luck equals 56 available stat points, 8. Perks bonus. Dark Girl, 1 of 3, equals stealth and trap making skill increase x 1.5. Disciple of the Rabbit Goddess equals sealless primary and secondary elemental manipulation possible. Flexible body equals Agi x 2.5, STR x 0.6. Uzumaki Chakra equals CH x 5, Mastery LVC rank Jutsu x 3. Uzumaki Luck equals LCK x 4 during gambling or looting. Uzumaki Vitality equals End x 2, Health Regen x 1.3. Minor Precognition, 2 of 5, equals plus 5 per. These fists were made for hitting. 2 of 3, equals unarmed damage plus 10%. Tenseigen equals unlocked Dujutsu Novice Fencer. Your skill with thrusting weapons increase at 130% and damage with all thrusting weapons is multiplied by 1, 2. Physical skills. Throwing. 101 1000 stealth, 92 1000s. Taijutsu. 108 1000s thrusting weapons, 76 1000s trap making, 83 1000s. Chakra skills. Chakra control. 100 1000s, current rank, D+. Tree walking. 38 1000s chakra blast, 0 1000s, current rank, D. Shinra tensai. 62 1000s other skills. Speech, 57 1000s. Precognition. 205 1000s, current rank, minor, cooking, 62 1000s. Singing, 32 1000s lockpicking, 42 1000s smithing, 60 1000s. Time seemed to fly by after Naru managed to form a guild. Life going on as always, yet seemingly halting during a few precious moments all would later look back on with various degrees of fondness, or horror depending on who you were. Still, while most people in the future would only remember the grand and outrageous parts of the Red Queen's tale, We at the very least get to take a look at more innocent and intimate moments that nonetheless help them shape into becoming the legends they would be hailed as later. Let's get to it then, shall we? Who knows what we might see? _u_u_. Wow, you're a natural at calligraphy, Naru-chan. I remember it taking me ages for me to get it down. Kushina praises her elder daughter, secretly happy herself that they'll be able to get on with the more interesting parts of Fuinjutsu sooner rather than later. Naru just smiles bashfully, not knowing how she could explain to Kushina that she practiced every night in her mindscape together with Ka-chan so that the redhead would be proud of her. She can't help but feel that the praise is more an exclamation of the Uzumaki matriarch's surprise than genuinely offering kind words to her daughter. Oh well, that'll change once they spend more time together, right? _u_u_. What was the Shodai Hokage most famous for? Anko asked her apprentice as she took a senbon from a tray, this one laced with a paralyzing toxin that would cause hellish pain to the one subjected to it. You mean besides founding our ninja village, creating the shinobi system we still employ to this day, and being stupid enough to hunt giant ethereal spirits that are sentient chakra given form? Mostly the fact he could grow wood wherever and whenever he wanted, coupled with his seemingly endless stamina, Naru says with a smirk and waggling eyebrows, observing her, now official, master as she stabs the senbon right into the artery of a spy they caught. Not that I'm against spending time with you, but why exactly am in the T&I department with you, Inigo? Naru asks curiously, the gagged man next to them suddenly jerking around in his bindings as he silently screams in sheer agony. Anko just looks up at Naru with a smile. First things first, while your answer is correct you should watch your phrasing. That SX joke was way too obvious. And as for why you're in my humble office, well, sooner or later you're gonna get into situations that either force you to interrogate someone or where the enemy tortures you for intel. So me being the genius that I am, decided to combine both of my current jobs and give you a bit of a heads up as to what you can expect. Anko says sagely, rubbing her chin as if to underline the wisdom of her actions. Is that why I'm tied to this chair as well? Yep, and if you manage to get out of those bindings in less than 10 minutes we'll go get some dango. _u_u_. Hi Ba-chan. A peppy voice shouts while slamming open the door of Tsunade's office. The owner of said office merely sighs as she levels a stare at the blonde menace that is one of her goddaughters, ignoring the bewildered pink-haired girl that was obviously dragged along. Shouldn't you be at the academy, brat? The last senju asks wearily, knowing that it is a question asked in vain. Well, I was, until I found a solution to your problems. I mean, you were always complaining about how ninja these days don't have either the chakra precision or knowledge to become a proper medic, right? So then, seeing that Sakura-chan remembers everything that she reads and that she can do all the chakra exercises on the first try, I thought that you could maybe teach her how to become the next you. Naru rants while Sakura just gapes at the crazy blonde that apparently forced her to skip school just to try and get her an apprenticeship with one of the Sanin. This day could not get any weirder for the civilian girl. Said Sanin, however, took a moment to mull things over. While the deranged little Uzumaki spawn often does things that no one but her can truly grasp the motivations behind, it does end up for the better if one looks underneath the underneath. Besides, the tyke has a point that if she gets another apprentice at an academy student's age she could ensure that said student meets her standards. Yes, this could actually work out. You, Pinky. I trust you don't have any issue with me taking you on as an apprentice? She asks Sakura. Said girl's eyes just widen in surprise and joy as she shakes her head, not trusting her voice at the moment. She, a civilian girl, was going to get personal training by the last of the senju. Good, I will give you a grace period of a month in which I will judge whether you will become my next apprentice or not. Either way I will only accept your very best effort. Now get back to school, both of you. She shouts that last sentence at the two girls who quickly scamper out of her office. Wait, did she even give the pinkhead a time and place for her training? Or were her parents informed of this idea by Naru for that matter? She'll send Shizune to do both those things. _u_u_fugaku sighs as he heads towards yet another meeting called together by the clan elders. The old codgers more likely than not will try to push for him to try and get the entire Uchiha clan behind the idea of staging a coup. Sure, he can understand how even with Minato doing his best to include one of the founding clans with village politics some of them are disgruntled. Ever since the day of the Kyuubi attack 9 years ago, rumors and stories have done their rounds about how the Uchiha were responsible for the Kyuubi rampaging all over Konoha. Sighing rather despondently, Fugaku sets his face into the same neutral expression every Uchiha clan head has worn before him and enters the conference room, only to stop in the door opening as he can see Minato and Naru lounge at his seat, a rather embarrassed Itachi being held in place by Shisui. Minato, I assume you're not here on formal business? The Uchiha patriarch asks his old friend while his daughter and his own cousin are snickering about something. Well, it's not really official yet, but I came here asking you something that could easily shape the future of our village. Minato replies, a strange glint in his eyes. The elders couldn't help but sweat nervously. Was the Yondaime on to their attempts to start a coup? Was he here to purge those who conspired against him? I'm thinking of making Itachi my successor, unless there is a reason that I shouldn't do that? I'm asking you because you're his father and know him much better than I do. Oh, and don't worry, I already asked Makoto as well, Minato says with a grin. Fugaku couldn't help but gape at his son while he slowly processes the words that were said by their leader. Uchiha Itachi. His prodigy son will become the very first Uchiha Hokage. Even though it is still quite a few years away, there was only one response that the dignified leader of this noble clan could give. This calls for a PAAARTAAAAYYYYY. And thus the Uchiha clan partied for 3 days and nights. Who knew they had it in them? _U_. Good morning, Naru-san. Shino greeted his first friend as he walked behind her, both he and his hive ready to get the hell out of Dodge. And it seemed to be a wise move, as Naru yelped and turned around, chains sprouting out of her back and flying towards the Aburame air. Shino of course dodged the haphazardly launched projectiles with ease, but both kids stare rather intrigued at the adamantine chains that Naru created. Huh, those are new. _U_. So, what's gotten you more excited as usual? Naru asks Shino casually as she's eating lunch while sitting on the underside of a tree branch. She doesn't care for the stares of the others around her that aren't used to her training methods. Sasuke sits next to her on the branch like a regular person while Shino and Hinata are seated against the trunk of the tree. Hinata and Sasuke can't help but raise their eyebrows at that statement. Doesn't Shino look the same as he always does, having almost everything but high? Quite an astute observation, Naru-san. I am indeed quite excited. Why? I get to become the first host of a new breed of Kakaichu. It is quite an important event in the Aburame clan. Shino says in usual bland tone. Still, that doesn't deter the blonde of the group. Ooh, sounds like a party in the making. You mind if I come too? Though nobody could see it, underneath his collar and sunglasses Shino was for the very first time in his life pleasantly surprised. His face soon morphing into an unseen smile. Of course, I'd be glad to host you if my parents agree, that is. Needless to say, the day of the event the reincarnated blonde endeared herself to the clan thanks to her honest and open curiosity. _U_. Sitting on top of the roof in the middle of the night with some hot tea, Naru couldn't help but look up at the moon, the lunar body having been a prison for her Ka-chan for so long. Strange that the day she was born also heralded Kaguya's freedom. Ka-chan, could you tell me a story? Naru asks her mother figure. Ufufu, of course Naru-chan. This one happened around 400 years ago when the Uzumaki clan had only recently founded Uzushio, taking the opportunity to teach her daughter about her clan's history a bit more. Kaguya weaves an unbelievingly crazy story that would only happen to an Uzumaki, the increasingly mad turns of events lulling the little girl into the most fantastical dreams. Sweet dreams, my little sunshine. Kaguya thinks fondly as Naru finally falls asleep. _U_. I'm telling you, Sasuke, this is suspicious as fuck. Naru growled at her annoyed Uchiha companion. The reason for their current argument? Naru saw something strange from the corner from her eye and immediately launched herself towards it using Shunshin, which she partly mastered. It's the part where you're stopping without your momentum carrying you forward that she has trouble with. Still, that just means she pretty much catapulted herself headfirst into the stomach of a Chunin who was apparently taking notes on them. Which pretty much was the starting point of their hushed argument. Even if it is, we should report this to Iruka-sensei instead of immediately dragging the bastard to your psychopath of a sensei. Sasuke counters, honestly not wanting to subject anyone to the woman who mentally scarred him during their first meeting. The same Iruka-sensei that let us walk back to the classroom alone after he finished our spar? The one that pitted us against each in alphabetical order instead of skill? The same Iruka-sensei that tried to brush us off with the excuse that he had to clean up before heading back to the class? Naru whisper shouted every suspicious thing their teacher did today. Granted, it's not his usual behavior, but still you do have a habit of making a huge mess, Sasuke counters. We fight in a goddamn dirt circle, what is there to clean up? And even if he did have to clean it up, then why hasn't he caught up to us yet? Even better yet, where the hell is Ino? Having nothing to counter those remarks with, Sasuke racks his brain in order to find something that would give him even the slightest chance of stopping his rival. Sadly, he couldn't find one and helped Naru secure the stranger in Chunin clothes with cuffs that Naru got from the T&I before picking up the man's legs. Alright then, you lunatic. How are we gonna do this? He asked in a gruff tone, still wondering just why the hell he was humoring her. Maybe that weird dream of last night did have something to do with it. Easy, there's a sewer grate nearby that we use to gain access to the tunnels. We get down there, go to the T&I while avoiding that one place that is heavily trapped and guarded by people with blank masks. When the dude wakes up, we'll just knock him out again while the chakra suppression seals on the cuffs do the rest. Once we've dropped the bastard, we're gonna search for Ino and check on the others. Naru explains while leading the way, carrying the man by his armpits. How the hell do you know your way around the sewers? Hey, I like to explore all kinds of places, and you won't believe just how fast you get around when using those sewer tunnels. While the two kids keep their bickering near silent while dumping the body first through the manhole, they don't notice Shisui holding back a snicker as he writes stuff down on a notepad. Sure, it was an exercise to see how the kids would treat orders out of the norm and gauge how responsible they were when left alone. Sure, they were only 9, but holy hell, aren't they a bunch of little sheeple? Well, besides the crazy blonde that once again managed to turn what would surely be a boring yearly hidden test into a fucking amazing spectacle. Well, I was tasked with observing the kiddies that were on their way. And what kind of anbu would I be if I were to slack off? And so, the tale of 2 academy kids knocking out a chunin and somehow managing to drag his ass to the other side of the village without being seen became something of a folk tale in the land of fire. _u_u_, Dad, why are there multiple yous doing the paperwork? Shouldn't Itachi be the one doing it instead? Naru can't help but ask curiously as she enters her father's office by herself for once. Normally there's always one of her friends accompanying her when she strikes out, but it seems they're all busy with something else at the moment. Minato, the real one that is, looks up from his position on the couch where he was relaxing and reading a book. Oh, Itachi got the day off so he could spend it with Sasuke and Makoto. As for your other question, those are Kage Bunshin. It's a B-ranked kenjutsu that allows you to make solid clones that transfer their memories to you when they pop. The reason they're forbidden is because it costs a lot of chakra to make them, even though they can help speed up your training by a lot. He explains with a smile to his eldest daughter whose gaze grows more and more awe-filled with every word the yondaime says. It's only when she suddenly appears right in front of him with teary puppy eyes Minato finally realizes he may have done goofed. Still, seeing as his daughter is an uzumaki, her reserves will probably be way too big for her to create the regular clones that are needed to graduate. And what will we tell Kushina? He asked amused. Time spent training with his little sunshine does sound more appealing than staying here, even though the chance that she can use the skill as a cheat to train her skills to their max level much faster. How about I brought the paperwork I get as guild master to you so you could teach me how to properly maintain a budget and such? That actually sounds like something that you need to learn sooner or later. Yosh, once you get the Kage Bunshin technique mastered at an acceptable level, we'll start with the paperwork. Minato exclaims in a far too happy tone. And even though Naru is complaining right now, he knows that she'll diligently follow the lessons. As much of a tomboy and roaming maverick she may seem to be, she's also one hell of a student once properly motivated. It's just a matter of keeping her interested in what is being taught. _u_Mizuki glanced at the Inuzuka boy getting his ass kicked again by the Hokage's favorite daughter and shrugs before turning around and heading inside to grade homework. It ain't his problem that the kid lacks good survival instincts. _u_, Sue, what you're saying is that if we accept that I can get resources to practice making my own weapons while training my shinobi skills and such? Tenten asks with a narrowed gaze at the very weird rectangle hovering in front of her, the blonde responsible for said strange thing standing a bit behind it. Yup, I'm also saving up for a plot of land where we can build our very own guild hall with all the necessary facilities for both living and training there. The red-eyed girl explains with a grin as she casually tosses a kunai up and down. She's been running into both Tenten and Rock Lee both inside the academy and outside of it and got cordial illusion that she extended the invitation to join her guild. Lee, bless his straightforward, taijutsu-loving heart, accepted immediately with a huge smile while shouting about the flames of youth. _u_, you should put it in a bit more carefully, Sasuke commented with a smirk, crouching right next to Naru while she is picking the lock on a chest. The thieving blonde just lets out a soft sigh as she focuses on the job at hand. I know Teme. She softly growls out as she tries to find the sweet spot of the padlock. You should twist it a bit more to the left. The Uchiha speaks up again, obviously enjoying the fact he can so easily rile up the Kage kid. Maybe I should grab you and twist that off. Satisfied with the silence, Naru gets back to the task at hand, grinning when a minute later she finally gets it open. Opening the chest, she quickly pockets the mission item while teleporting the rest of the loot into the shared inventory of the party. That way they can easily divide it all later. Truly, the only thing left is sneaking back out and then they're done. Easy as pie for them seeing as they already have an escape route planned. Took you long enough. Sasuke commented rather haughtily in an Uchiha way. Oh my god, Sasuke. I swear to the goddess that if you don't shut up right now I'll fuck you up and leave you for dead while burning this place to the ground. Naru screams at Sasuke while the smug bastard merely weathers the storm with that arrogant little smile of his. Because not even a second after Naru finished shouting, the alarms went off. You planned this, didn't you, asshole? _u_, morning Yasha. Mito greets her sister neutrally, only the two of them either awake or in the house at the moment. Naru stiffens for a moment before turning around and facing her red-headed sister. You're not Asura or Indra, so how do you know that name? She asks in a rather forced casual tone, her rapier ready to be summoned at a moment's notice. Mito just swallows nervously before opening her mouth slowly. Ayanri just wondered how much you remember. She stammers out, trying to wrap her head around the yin half of the Kyuubi, who happens to be a gorgeous woman by the by, actually told her the truth. Was everything else that she said then true as well? Right now I remember up to my 3rd year of secret training I think we are. Tabi Ne-chan and Shu Ni have just convinced Chomei to help them out as well. So, how is Anri doing actually? Naru asks excitedly, happy for any news she can get on one of her old siblings. Mito for her part just relaxes a bit while trying to come to terms with it all. She's doing fine, happy that she's in control of her own body and actions but devastated as to how it came to be. She carries over her tenant's message before collapsing in a chair and giggling hysterically. So it's true what she said, you really are the sage's daughter. Mito somehow manages to say coherently between fits of manic laughing fits. Nah, it's just that I used to be Yasha and remember it piece by piece. I'm still your sister, I just get to relive my past life in my dreams. Goddess, that doesn't make it any less complicated, does it? Naru says with a rueful chuckle as she puts a cup of steaming tea in front of her sister. Mito doesn't respond, but closes her eyes as if meditating. Naru doesn't disturb what is most likely two of her sisters conversing with each other and silently heads to the backyard to meditate. Hey Naru, thanks for telling me the truth and, reincarnated chick from the ages past or not, you're still family. For her part Naru just smiles before turning around, thanks Mito, if you want I can tell you more about that time later if you want. Mito just nods as her usual cocky grin returns. Sure, I'd love to know if Anri is justified in calling the Rikudo Sennin a misogynistic piece of hypocritical shit. _U_. Today was the day. Today Inuzuka Kiba would follow the crazy bitch that kept fucking him up and denying him his place as the proper alpha of the class. He'd beat her up and then he'd climb up to the very top of the class. Who cares that his sister and mother still kick his ass with ease, along with most adult and teen females in the clan. Okay, so maybe they might have a point as to why he should keep his bravado on a tighter leash. But how the hell should he otherwise show that he's the alpha if everyone keeps insisting on working against him? Finally arriving at the training ground where his arch-rival would be training with her sensei, Kiba couldn't help but stop and gape at the scene in front of him, Akamaru whining worriedly as well. Seemingly dancing on the surface of the pond in this training ground, Naru seems unusually focused as she is dodging 3 giant snakes at once, the things hell-bent on dragging them under while the girl has to avoid them wearing 4-inch heels. Still, the grace and fluidness of her movements easily hint to this being a usual thing for the hard-working cage kid. Edging back to the edge of the training ground, Kiba turns around and heads back home, his view of the world severely shaken by this turn of events. That and the blasts of pure chakra that are being flung around could easily hit him if he stayed in one place for too long. _U_. Goddammit, how did we lose that fucking cat? An irate Genin yelled to his teen while their teacher watched from a distance. While the three newly minted ninjas start blaming each other, none of them bother to even entertain the notion of the cat being in the sewers right now through the nearby grate. Meanwhile in the sewers Naru holds the cat in a relaxed grip while walking through the tunnels, scratching the poor thing behind his ears. Jesus, what kind of shitty owner makes you want to run for your life over and over? It must be really bad if a smart guy like you keeps trying. Naru says to Tora. The feline enjoying the short time of peace as for once a young one understands his plight in this godforsaken village. Why do they not realize he'd rather be free or dead instead of being stuck with that fat female-looking thing that keeps choking him? You know, the Inuzuka somehow managed to teach their ninkin how to use chakra. Want to see if I can help you do the same, Tora? Naru asks with a malevolent grin. Already enjoying the chaos and mayhem that would surely follow this decision. It didn't help that Tora's smile matched that of his new favorite human. If he could manage to harness chakra with the help of this tiny blonde, then he'd owe her a debt that would maybe never be able to get repaid. Ooh, with a bit of luck you'd be able to spit fireballs as well. Just imagine the look on the faces of your chasers. That's it, one of his future kittens will most definitely be named after this beautiful angel of chaos. _U_Sasuke, Hinata and Shino already went ahead of Naru. As Iruka kept her behind for something she may or may not have done during the class, Dad was right. Cage Bunchin were totally baller. Finally outside, she was about to head to her friends but something stopped her. Sasuke and Hinata were laughing about something, their shoulders touching as they were sharing some kind of inside joke. Feeling some kind of anger bubbling up in her stomach, Naru heads back inside with her jaw clenched as tight as her fists. For some reason, she really just wants to be alone right now. _U_. Naru sighs as she once again is alone on one of the training grounds, her friends all doing clan-related business and Inigo busy with some spies they captured yesterday. Wondering what she should do, our little protag turns around and watches the tree line. Sure enough, a moment later Kiba walks through it with a rather sheepish look. Akamaru doesn't really care about the awkward atmosphere and trots towards the sole female around before lying down next to her. The awkward silence stretches on for a few minutes until Kiba finally opens his mouth. Only to be interrupted by a giant flashing orb appearing and dropping off two very familiar looking people. Damn it Naru, I thought heck the ceiling matrix? A rather rough voice snarls at his companion, though both kids can hear that there isn't any actual malice. When both Kiba and Naru's sight return to them, they can actually see the two strangers that just so happen to look a lot like them. Of course, it's our fearless little protag who interrupts the bickering that was sure to start. Why is future me's hair white, and where do the fucking cat ears and tail come from? The soon-to-be 12-year-old girl blurts out. Just as she said, there was another, older Naru standing in the middle of the blast zone, the young woman looking almost the same, yet so much different. The white-haired catgirl version of Naru has a rather lithe body clad in a red corset and tight leather pants that seem to be painted on her long legs. A sleeveless trench coat, complete with a tailhole, hangs snugly from her shoulders while her forearms are clad in metal gauntlets that reach all the way to her elbow. Boots seemingly made from the same metal also reach until just below her knees. And as her younger version pointed out, for some reason the now white-haired girl has indeed turned into a catgirl. Oh, those, don't worry about them. The future me who told me what I needed to hear didn't have them, so if you don't like it you can avoid them. Now then, let me bestow upon thee the core rules that are the pillars of Uzumaki Fuinjutsu. The older and no less crazy Uzumaki drags her complaining past self to the other side of the training ground, only looking back to wink at her companion. Kiba looked up at the older version of himself and could only think of one thing. Damn, I totally rocked that soul patch. Indeed, with his hair slicked back and the fuzzy little bit of hair growing on his chin, Kiba indeed did look more mature and intimidating. Future Kiba merely looked down with a roguish grin to his past self, remembering this moment very well. Well, time to help his past self out just like his future self did for him. You don't have to try so hard, you know, he says calmly, shocking the young Inuzuka with his words. Seriously, you don't have to focus on being the alpha of the group so much. You're still young, so it's okay to just go through life and enjoy the peaceful days. Besides, if you really want to compete with Naru, you'd have to top the same crazy shit she gets into. And that means getting something more awesome than a compact ceiling array that allows you to summon meteors. Future Kiba explains with a grin. Ignoring the friggin' meteor part, why the hell don't I have to try? I mean, how can I prove I'm a good next clan head when goddammit? The younger Inuzuka's rant is cut off by a flick to his forehead, his elder self just grinning. What, and you think picking fights you can't win is a good way to show that you're ready for leadership? Look kid, it's really simple. Either you keep doing what you're doing and end up completely alone and obsessed with winning a battle that you can't ever emerge victorious from. Or, you just take a few steps back, get to know the craziest fucking girl this village has ever brought forth and watch as everything falls in place. Hell, it's only thanks to the insanity that I always put up with when Naru's around that I met my fiancée. And let me tell you, she's worth all of it, he says with a happy smile, one that Kiba can remember seeing on his mother's face when his father was still around. Wanting to ask more, it seems that it wasn't meant to be as his future self slowly starts fading away. Well, looks like we're out of time. Remember to take it easy and enjoy life, pup, or you'll end up regretting it, was the last thing Inuzuka Kiba heard of his time-traveling future self before he disappeared. Staring at the spot for a few minutes, he is once again shaken out of his stupor by someone flicking him in the forehead. You okay there, dude? Naru asks with a grin. Kiba wants to growl and shout but can't find the energy for it, the strange encounter having drained him both physically and mentally. Yeah, future me just gave me a fuckton to think about, he admits while letting himself fall to the ground. Naru just nods excitedly. I know, right, I got like a lot of new schematics for weapons and ideas for techniques to try out. That and a book containing all the basic rules an Uzumaki should follow in case ceiling arrays go foobar. Hell, my future self is going to manage to. Anyways, we can fuse our wind and water affinity together in order to recreate the Haiden jutsus. She rambles excitedly before taking a proper look at Kiba's tired face. Ooh, he gave you a talk that made you re-examine your whole life, didn't he? Naru asks with a knowing tone. Yep, was the only reply Naru got from the unusually silent boy. Want to talk about it while we go get lunch? Sure, why not? _u_yeah, not gonna lie. This chapter really kicked my ass, but I didn't just want to make a time skip of 4 years and just try to summarize important developments in a few paragraphs. Sure, I still did summarize important events in a few paragraphs, but at least each event now at least has one of its own. But yeah, this still ain't one of the best things I've ever written. Anyways, next chapter is where the real fun begins and I start fucking hard with stuff that'll turn the canon timeline into mincemeat. Until next time, and for those who want to read it, down below are the Uzumaki rules regarding time travel, written by Crimson Grave, the person who keeps helping and motivating me into writing this story. Uzumaki rules regarding time travel. If one finds themselves in the past due to a ceiling array or any other method, do what your gut tells you to. If you meet your past self, and remember meeting your future self in the past, try to reenact the meeting as close as possible to what you remember from your own situation. We don't want to accidentally nearly collapse the time stream again after all. Especially with situations like this that are probably fixed points in time and as such essentially to the time stream. If you don't recall such a meeting, then you either have the ability to remove memories on hand and should use it, or the originator of a fixed point in time are not in one and can do what you wish, or are in an alternate universe and should find out everything you can about it for research's sake. Don't forget to bring back souvenirs for the family and friends if in an alternate universe. These rules mostly apply if you meet with your parents or grandparents as well. If in the past instead of an alternate universe, please do not kill your past self or parents, grandparents. Also, please do not become your own parent or grandparent. We are still trying to figure out how the time stream hasn't collapsed in on itself since the last time this happened, but we do not want anyone to test it again to find out either. Getting together with your past self has shown no issues with the time stream. Somehow, you will however be mocked mercilessly by friends and peers. It's a sunny Saturday afternoon, the kind where you can't help but laze around a bit as you enjoy the weather. Quite a lot of people seem to think that and the streets are pleasantly crowded with shinobi and civilians alike as they take it easy for a bit. Hell, most of them don't even bat an eye anymore at the various groups of clones running around and doing seemingly random stuff. Well, almost everyone. Naru, why the fuck have we already passed a dozen use? Kiba asks but freaked out and exasperated. Said blonde just looks at her rather feral companion and shrugs. Cage Bunchin, she says like it explains everything. That doesn't explain shit and you know it, Kiba shouts in annoyance while his current companion is busy picking her ear. Fiend, I'll spell it out for you, she says in a rather bored tone before flicking away whatever was in the recently picked hole. So, they're like a B-rank Kenjutsu clone technique that I'm allowed to use due to having far too large chakra reserves to learn the Academy one properly. They're a perfect copy of me that when they dispel I get their memories and whatever skill they learned. She says casually as Kiba can't help but gape at the rather overpowered bullshit technique. Hey, at least it ain't Sharingan level up. And the reason 3 of them are playing music on the streets is? The boy prods on while looking around for Akamura. Oh, he's getting carried with accompanying belly rubs by yet another clone. So, I might have taken the perfect copy part a bit too seriously and given them actual sentience. Which means that since they only have a lifespan of a day at the most, I agreed to let them enjoy the short amount of time that they have left after their jobs however they like. So long as we're not on a mission or when I need the chakra back, that is. She explains rather sheepishly as she takes over Akamaru carrying duty from the passing clone. And as for Kiba. So, since you accidentally gave sentience to chakra constructs, you feel guilty about them basically having the lifespan of a mayfly so you let them do whatever? Kiba asks as he can already feel a headache developing. Yup, and since I learned what they learned I've picked up all kinds of awesome skills. The blonde agrees with a brilliant smile. Ladies and gentlemen, this just came in. Inuzuka Kiba is already so done with today and ran out of fucks to give. Let's see what tactic his brain decides to utilize next. So, where did you plan to have lunch? He asks with a casual smile that hides the clusterfuck that is his mind at the moment. If Naru notices the obvious technique of denial, then she doesn't mention it and just grabs motions Kiba to follow with her head down a little street. It takes a few minutes of traversing through some narrow, winding alleys, but in the end they stumble upon a little restaurant. The old place having that quaint little charm only a well-loved for family business can have. Not hesitating for a moment, Naru enters and takes a seat at the bar while greeting the owner of the business with a grin. He seems like a rather old man, easily pushing his 60s as his graying hairline keeps falling back. Seating himself next to the weird girl that for some reason he keeps following around, he looks over the rather simple menu. While looking over what he'd order, it seems that his Ninken partner garners attention from the old owner. Oi pup, if you make a mess you're not allowed to eat at the counter anymore, got that? He says with a rather stern glare. Akamaru just nods while panting, his nose already filled with the scent of all kinds of delicious meat. Following his partner and taking a deep whiff, the rather feral boy can't help but let out an appreciative hum as the meat and spices blend together in a hunger-inducing smell. I'll have the udon with a side dish of gyoza and some green tea. Naru orders after barely looking at the menu, obviously having been here before. The man just nods and gets to work, looking at Kiba all the while and waiting for him to order. I'll have the yakitori and some green tea as well. Nodding once again to show that he heard, the old man starts prepping their orders while there's a silence hanging around the two of them. It's not that bad for once, the mood in the tiny restaurant helping them relax as the business of the big streets are a background drum. Sorry for taking the long road here by the way. I just prefer the peace and quiet of these little alleys sometimes. Naru disturbs the silence with a sheepish grin, her hand scratching the back of her head. Kiba lifts an eyebrow and turns around. Sure enough, from the nearby entrance he can see the busy main street and even recognizes one of the shops he passes each day going to the academy. Huh, look at that. He comments, the lethargy he felt lately helping him stay calm right now. You want to talk about it? Naru asks softly, the girl looking at him from the corner of her eyes while absent-mindedly petting Akamaru. He really wants to tell her to mind her own business, but stops before the words leave his lips. Their future selves got along fine, didn't they? Maybe he can actually talk to her about it. I've been having troubles lately with finding any motivation for being a shinobi lately. The Inuzuka teen admits to both himself and his listener. Closing his eyes and waiting for the inevitable teasing the crazy blonde will heap upon him. He's surprised to only hear an inquisitive hum escaping her lips. Do you have any specific idea as to why you lost your motivation to become one, or is it just a feeling you've been having lately? Well, that most certainly wasn't the direction he thought this conversation would be heading. You do realize that hanging around at the T&I for the last 4 years helped me pick up a few basic pointers regarding psychology. One of those being how to help someone talk through their problems. Okay, now she's just reading his mind. I'm not a Yamanaka Kibbles, your face is just that easy to read. Ignoring the rather insulting nickname, seriously, Kibbles of all things? He nonetheless takes a deep breath and decides to jump into the deep for unfathomable reasons. Or, you just take a few steps back, get to know the craziest fucking girl this village has ever brought forth and watch as everything falls in place. Right, that's fucking why. Oh well, in for a Rio. It's been building up for a while, what with everyone seemingly surpassing me. All of you are getting stronger and stronger and easily kicking my ass while leaving me behind in the dust. Hell, I'm only above the civilians and Shika. Normally that wouldn't be a problem, but the gap is much bigger than that it should be. Aren't we supposed to learn the same shit at the same pace? Kiba starts ranting, his frustration only hinting at the underlying issues. Naru just exhales through her nose, sensing that there is more that he needs to get off of his chest. I mean, we all started out pretty even, but all of a sudden you and your buddies started pulling all kinds of crazy moves out of your asses. I mean, the hell's up with that? He finally gets everything out of the open and breathes heavily for a moment. If the old man is annoyed by all the shouting in his empty restaurant, he doesn't show it and puts their orders in front of them. Start eating and I'll explain it all. Naru orders with a grin, a glint entering her eyes that Kiba doesn't really like too much. Smirking at the boy that she pretty much treated as her punching bag lately, which wasn't that hard with how he always kept challenging her, she let a screen pop up with a wave of her hand. Tell me Kiba, what do you know about video games? And with that exploding tag of an opening, she started to explain in detail about how she and her friends grew so strong so fast. Kiba just listened and enjoyed the food, eyes widening as the entire thing sounded more and more fantastical. If their future selves hadn't barged into the past like they did, he'd probably be denying this shit and be calling her a liar. It takes most of their meal taught up to speed and the remainder of it to process it all. So, basically you guys have been grinding quests and instances in order to get stronger and learn new skills? Kiba asks with the air of someone who has just given up on reality and decided to go with whatever strange flow seems to messing with the fabric of the universe. Pretty much yeah, wanna join the guild? It'll help you get into those fancy new training grounds, she asks casually while taking a sip from her tea. Kiba just looks wide-eyed at her declaration. Sure, she told him how she was responsible for the teleporting arrays across the village and the fabled training instances hiding in a hidden spot. The fact that she can easily gain access to them is almost ridiculous. Was she not the one responsible for them showing up in the first place? It does sound too good to be true though. What's the catch? He asks with narrowed eyes. Akamaru just rolls his eyes at the suspicious demeanor of his human pet. Oh well, he'll realize soon enough that the girl is genuine and just wants to include him. For a cat lover, she's pretty straightforward with her motives most of the time. Now, there's still a bit of yummy meat left in his bowl and it would be a shame to let it go to waste. Ignoring his human's plight, the girl's got it all under control for now. He starts feasting again on the delicious meat the old store owner put in front of him. Naru just rolls her eyes and smacks the dog boy's head. You want to know the catch? All I want is for you to chill the fuck out. Get your ass in gear and catch up to where you're supposed to be if you took your training actually serious. Naru says in a commanding tone, making a few weird hand movements when a screen appears right in front of the Inuzuka heir. Uzumaki, Yasha, Naru has invited you to join her guild. Accept, refuse, what the hell? What could be the worst thing that could happen? He thinks to himself as accepts the offer. Poor bastard, if only he knew. Line break for the poor guys not realizing just how hard they've been fucked over yet. After the rather loaded conversation, talk became a bit more casual as the two got to know each other. Laughter pretty soon flowing freely from them as they compare various hijinks and stories of rather embarrassing stuff that they went through. Naru's stories easily take the cake though. So there I was, jumping out of the air vent completely starkers and stolen kunai in hand with a vengeful cry on my lips. Only to realize the moment I landed I was in the wrong interrogation room. The worst part was that I later found out that there were about a dozen interns and a few instructors observing that torture session in order to weed out those with a weak stomach. Naru tells about one of the more embarrassing mishaps she endured while training underneath Konoha's snake mistress. Kiba honestly couldn't hold it and guffaws as he holds up one of the curtains at the entrance of the little restaurant for the snickering blonde. Goddammit, what the hell did you do? He couldn't help but ask as they rejoined the masses on the main streets. Asked politely where Anko was, thanked him for the directions and marched out of the room as if I was fully geared. The red-eyed protag says without any shame as they just start wandering around. The conclusion got them both in stitches again as Kiba has to lean on the blonde while catching his breath. If this is what he can expect hanging around her, then he's honestly wondering why didn't just swallow his damn pride sooner and reached out to the crazy bitch. Alas, the good times seemingly weren't supposed to last. "Naru, is that you?" A voice interrupted them from behind, both joy and nervousness permeating it. Seeing Naru's smile brighten right before turning around, he can still see from the side as it suddenly gains a forced edge. "Yo, Nata-chan, I thought you'd be stuck doing clan business all day," she says cheerfully while talking with her not-so-secret crush. What? It is rather obvious when you know what to look for, and Kiba did observe her thoroughly while he still tried to kick her ass. Wow, he was kinda acting like a creep all that time, wasn't he? "It was done earlier than expected, and you did say you'd be busy training, so I asked Sasuke if he wanted to get some cinnamon buns with me," she admits with a slight blush. Sasuke standing very close to her with one of said cinnamon buns in his hand. It kind of looks as if those two are on a "ah hell no," and it seems that the red-eyed girl came to the same conclusion too, judging by the way she swallowed. "I see, you know you could have called me too, Nata-chan. I'd have been glad to accompany you." "I know, Naru, but lately we always seem to be doing what I want, so I thought I'd let you have this day to yourself." Hinata gently rebukes Naru, not realizing how those words were twisting the knife in her heart. So you decided to drag the Teme along instead? You know, if you two are on a date, you can just come out and say it, right?" she says jokingly, her tone just a tad too high for it to be fully natural. It's enough to keep those two distracted as Sasuke and Hinata start blushing and stammering. "It's not a date. I mean, we just kinda bumped into each other and decided to get a late lunch together," Hinata stammers out, the stutter that she almost got rid of entirely coming back full force. Sasuke seems to have another tactic though and tries to turn the tables. And what about you and Dog Breath? You two seem to be awfully chummy too. You sure you two aren't the one on a date?" he says with a rather condescending smirk. Kiba and Hinata both tense up, knowing how these type of talks usually end. To their surprise, however, Naru for once doesn't seem to rise up to the bait. "What, with Kiba? Sure, once he manages to clean up his act and actually manages to pull off whatever dregs of roguish charms he seems to have hidden beneath a shit ton of bravado, he might be a decent catch. Shame he isn't my type though," she admits with a shrug. "Anyways, I'm gonna blow up some shit with my fancy writing. Whether you come along or not is your choice. I honestly don't give a fuck at the moment," Naru says as she pushes her way past Sasuke and heads towards the nearest teleporting array. It's only when he sees the genuine hurt in his best friend's eyes that he wants to follow her, but is held back by Kiba. "I'll make sure she doesn't do anything stupider than normal. You got a lady to entertain," he says in a gruff way before rudely pushing the Uchiha Saiyan out of the way with his shoulder. Besides, Akamaru is already trailing after the cage kid, so he might as well follow his partner's lead. Seeing her actually wait at the teleportation array at the Hokage Tower isn't all that surprising then, as both his ninkin partner and strangely enough a cat seem to try and cheer her up. Looking up from the two animals playfully vying for her attention, she shoots a sad smile his way. "So the other two aren't coming, huh?" she says in a tone of rueful acceptance. "Still, thanks for coming, Kiba," she says gratefully. Said boy just shrugs and tries to play it cool while some pink dusts his cheeks. "Hey, you haven't given me the grand tour yet, so I thought what the hell, might as well get it now since we ain't got anything to do," he says gruffly. "Ah, you're such a tsunere," Naru teases him while pulling him in the circle. Activating it, she tries to show Kiba around the town of fire, but around halfway she can't bottle it up anymore and starts crying. If the newest member of her guild is upset with her tears coating his shirt, then he certainly doesn't say anything about it. Eventually, they do manage to finish the tour and go their own way. The rest of the weekend Naru doesn't talk more than needed and mainly keeps to herself, ignoring calls from her friends as she focuses on her fuinjutsu. Far too soon to her liking, Monday rolls around and with a weary mind she heads to the academy. She is rather confused though, as somewhere halfway to her destination she is flanked by both Shino and Kiba. Both friendly punch to her shoulder is all she needs to know as to what is going on. Throwing her head back in laughter, she wraps her arms around the two of them and pulls them a bit closer, relishing in the warmth that they seem to let seep into her body. And if Naru started to refer to the two of them as her boys, from that day on, neither of them seemed to really mind it.